Hey, welcome to another great episode of the Real Deal Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Courtney Harden. Glad to be back with a new and exciting episode. I have a incredible guest, someone that I've been wanting to get on the show for a while, and she is and does incredible work with women's basketball and WNBA, college, and all that. So, but before I bring her in, hit my music. Let's get it. Let's go. Once again, welcome to another great episode of the Real Deal Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Courtney Harden. Glad to be back with a new and exciting episode. You can follow the show on all the podcast platforms, wherever you consume podcasts. We are there: Apple, Spotify, YouTube, BS3 Network, BS3TVLive.com, BS3 Network, Roku channel, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, all the podcast platforms there. So just download and search The Real Deal with Courtney Harden. We are there. And you can follow me on all the social media platforms, most active on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and I also have a Blue Sky. So don't really do too much Blue Sky, but I have a page there. So all those platforms, and I get the real deal on those platforms as well. So let me bring in my guest here. Like I said, she is. Let me read her resume. I wrote it out so I can make sure I get it right. Freelance sports journalist, writer, author, podcast host, on-air host. Think I got it all. Like I said, she does a little bit of everything of college, women's college basketball, WNBA, everything there. So welcome to the show. One of my favorite people in this space. I'm saying it right now, right at the top. Jordan Robinson. Welcome to the show. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that intro. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yes. I hope I got everything right. Like I said, you've done a little of everything, and now an author too, and a new book getting ready to launch. We're gonna get into all that too. So, but I'm excited to have you on. Thank you so much for doing this. Really appreciate
Yeah, thank you. I know I have a lot of jobs, so I even
it.
just listing majority of them is a lot of work. So
Yeah,
thank
yes.
you.
I know. Like I said, I went old school and wrote everything out. I said, let me just make sure
It's
I
a
get
lot. It's a lot.
everything. So, but no, it's good to have that many jobs and everything too. It's like the old Living Color skit. You got 30 jobs, man, 30 jobs. So there you go. So but I do appreciate you. I really, really do appreciate it. And I'm very excited to have you on. So but let's get started. I always ask my first time guests, who is Jordan Robinson, and how did you, and just an origin story, how you got to where you started and where you are today.
Yeah, that's a long story. It's been a
Mhm.
long journey. But I think the short version of that is, I grew up playing basketball. Been a fan of the game since I was 5 years old. I wanted to be like my older brother, like a lot of younger little girls do.
Mhm.
And we had a hoop in our front yard, and I saw him out there playing. I saw the neighborhood kids out there playing, so I was like, well, that looks fun. I want to join. And
Yeah.
that's how it kind of started. I uh, got in a co ed league when I was 5 years old and kind of never stopped since. In middle school and high school, I started getting serious and realized that, I can maybe get a scholarship to play. Went to college, a D2 school in San Diego, played there for 4 years, and I wanted to see how I could, still be around the game. And that's what kind of led me to covering women's basketball and women's sports full time. It's sorry about my talk.
Yeah, it's all right. Hey, it's a podcast. Hey, that's it.
Yeah,
I keep
it's
it in.
live. This is
Yeah,
it.
it's
This is
live.
the
Right,
house.
right.
But that was, yeah, being able to cover women's basketball and a sport that gave so much to me. How could I give back to it? And
Mm,
by covering it, and the way that I do podcasting, writing, hosting, that's always the way to do it for me. The storytelling aspect, having my degree in journalism was how can I tell stories about anything, period.
Right.
I had great professors and coaches to tell me, if you could tell a story, you could tell it about anything. You could tell about basketball, you could tell it about fashion. So that's what I really tried to stick to. And that's what I'm doing now. A podcast, writing, on camera. Anyway, I want to
All those
tell about
things.
women's basketball.
Absolutely. And all those things that you said, it all just blended and intertwined. As you said, you played basketball for 4 years, all your life, basically. And now it just led into what you do today. Uh, do you miss playing basketball? I'm sure you do.
Hey, I do. I still
Yeah.
play in my old lady leagues, probably up until like a couple years ago.
Right.
I might get back into it. Me and my husband were saying if we get our hands on some A1s, maybe that'll just
Yeah.
get back and playing basketball. But yeah, I did play, and I think it was so fun to play as an adult with no school or no
Mm,
politics, no coach. It felt like back when you're a kid, right? Like that
right.
freedom of just playing for the love of the game. So that has been really fun to just get out there and play, shoot the ball around on the blacktop, to get back to the basics. It's not about anything else but playing and having fun. So that's what I miss. I miss the joys, but I get a lot of joy from watching and seeing great basketball played. And that's not me because I'm very out of shape and then I get frustrated. So I like watching on TV as well.
Yeah, that sound like me and my wife. We both played and everything, enjoyed it, and still enjoy. We don't haven't played in years, but it's one of those things. You said you pick up a basketball and you're like, I think I can still do this, and then you start running up and down that court. And you're like, but there's no pressure though either. As you said, you played college. And from that perspective, and he said none of the politics, none of the the coaching and everything. You say, hey, you know what? I go out there. You go out there with your husband and say, hey, let's just shoot around and just see where we are, what our games are at. And he said, we don't do it with no pressure. So at this point, it's, as you said, it's all about now covering it and watching it and interviewing and storytelling. But you still have it in you no matter what, right?
Absolutely. I think that is the fun part. It's never
Yeah.
leaving me. I still
Yeah.
love this game no matter what.
Yes, yes. That's the good thing. So as you said, basketball has followed you, and you said you're still in it, and you still, like you said, you cover it and all that too. So now you do it on a from writing to podcasting to journalism, and everything, media and all that too. So my next question is making that transition to all of that. How was that? How the was it a smooth? What did it have something? I did see it in an interview that you did, as you said, you took a chance on yourself to do some freelancing and everything too. Talk about the ups and downs of that transitioning from playing basketball to now covering it.
I think there was a lot of ups and downs. I think it was a transition of betting on yourself, but also knowing that you can bring something else to the table rather
Yeah,
than just playing, right? I think I had to trust myself that I knew the game in a way that even if I wasn't playing it, all those years of watching and asking questions and playing made me an expert in this space. I think there's a
right.
lot of imposter syndrome when you're going up against people, especially because I didn't study like specific sports journalism in
Mhm.
school, or you're going up against professional athletes who are coming into this space as well, so there's a lot of competition here. And I think that's what really got into my head a little bit of like, okay, do you trust yourself? Do you trust your preparation? Do you trust what is that enough? So there were days that I doubted that, and that's kind of when I made my pivot to more of a corporate space, and then it immediately pulled me back
Yeah,
into freelance and storytelling about women's basketball. The passion that I had for the game, I learned was my best asset. That's something that nobody can take away from me. That's something that nobody else has. My own story and my own, fire for the game is something that separates myself. So wanting to put that into how I tell stories was really that was that self-talk to tell me how to separate myself from the rest of the competition, and that's what I still try to do.
Yeah, and yeah, that's a good point. And you said, like you said, having that confidence of, you said, betting on yourself and being able to say, "Hey, this is my voice. This is what I'm going to do." And the thing I like that what you do is you see it from a lens of, I played basketball for all my life, and I played D2 basketball for 4 years, so I can look at it from a lens of an athlete, and it's a former student athlete, and just say, "Hey, I know this game. I've played this game, so why not implement my skills and my self into telling the story of from my lens and things like that." I think that's very important that you look at it from a different lens than somebody that that might have not played from that perspective in the media space. And I think there is a distinctive difference, but you could come from it from a different angle of like, hey, even though you're still learning, but you can come from it as a former student athlete as well.
And I think, yeah, that student athlete part, because that's my favorite part about covering
Yeah,
college
right.
basketball, because I know that, yes, they're playing a sport, but this is not their job. They are still a 20 something year old young
Right.
woman or young man, and they are trying their best to try to navigate what they're going to do with the rest of their life while also trying to play a sport that they love and they're on a scholarship for, and it demands a lot of them, but school is also there. And as something I always bring up is like, yeah, we love the March Madness tournament, but they probably have an essay due that night. Like they were
Yeah,
expecting them to
right.
hit buzzer beaters and stuff like that,
Yep.
and they have schoolwork. So that's always funny to me. So thinking of the basketball players as people first is something
Mm,
that's really important in my coverage.
yes. Yeah. And then that goes again, the storytelling. It says seeing these athletes as human, that humanizing, that the storytelling and everything too. So the question would be, how important is that? Because as we know, as we've been doing this for a long time, just in podcasting in general, of how important storytelling really is and how much it's not covered. It's not covered. I mean, it is covered, but it's not covered enough. I don't believe so in media in general. Getting to know these athletes as people, but in your eyes, how important is it to get those stories that are not told?
It's everything. I mean,
Hmm.
that is a part of my job, I see. Um, the whole idea that really drew me to women's basketball and WNBA is because I don't feel like we knew the women's players as well as we knew the men's players, and
Yeah.
as well as we knew everything about LeBron James. And no matter what team he was on, people still knew him and were fans of him for the things that he liked. And we know that he likes wine, and we know what his family is and where he's from and the story of his mom and him growing up, and all of that we don't really get from women's athletes. I feel like that's kind of lost in the stories about them just on the court. So that's what I've always tried to do, is really tell and paint those stories about women's athletes as people and their stories, their backgrounds, because that's how the game continues to grow, right? When you become a
Mhm.
fan of a player because you like them for them, no matter what team they're on, that's how the game continues to grow. You draw in more people that maybe weren't fans or weren't watching before, because they can latch on and relate to somebody's story. So that is the most important thing to me, and what I try to do.
And I'm glad that there are those that are doing it, like yourself and others in this space in women's basketball and women's sports in general, and being able to tell those, like you said, those humanizing stories that we do hear from you're right, we do hear from the men. He said LeBron, he likes wine, and Carmelo Anthony likes wine. All these, all the athletes that we've seen those stories being told, but it's like, okay, what does Asia Wilson like to do, like outside of basketball? Now, her being with Bam Adebayo, yeah, we're seeing that now, but because of it has, it's being told those stories. And what does, Angel Reese, like, what does she like to do? She loves fashion. Boom. Okay, let's tell a story about that. Let's people want to hear those stories as well. And I'm glad that, like I said, to have that that space where those important stories outside of the, off the court stories, I think are very important. We listed a lot of the things that you do, podcasting, writing, and being a host, all those things. What is a typical day for Jordan Robinson? I'm sure it varies each week and each day, but what is a more of a typical day of what you do?
Whew. There is no day that is the same, which
Yeah,
is exactly how I like it.
yeah,
I did not love my life when I knew I was gonna get in the car, sit in
mhm,
traffic this amount of time, sit at my desk. Like that is, I'm
yeah,
not built for that at all. I love that every single day is different. So anytime I'm asked this question, I typically do a week because
yeah,
it's all different. This is my busy time. So
yes,
this is March Madness, heading into, also my book is launching this month in
yes.
March.
We're gonna get into
And
that.
then, yeah, and then we just roll into the WNBA season, hopefully. So this is
I,
all super busy. I would say, I could just look at this week in particular. I have some production meetings for my podcast, The Women's Hoop Show. We record on Tuesdays, but we have Mondays with my or meetings on Mondays with my producers in the morning. And then I have been doing a ton of press for Court Queens this week. So jam-packed days of interviews with different outlets, different podcasts that are, fitting to our audience to get the word out for the book. I also maybe am responding to edits. I have a feature story that's coming out soon on a college player. I also just got a couple more assignments today. So I'm mapping out those stories for The Guardian and for WNBA.com. So very much still writing. I interviewed Monique Billings yesterday for a
mm,
podcast that's coming out
yeah,
next week. Have a couple more meetings, a lot of meetings. There's so many meetings,
yeah.
and
There's
I
so many
wish there
meetings.
weren't any meetings, but so many meetings to just connect with different people that my agent sets up. I also do a live Bleacher Report stream on women's basketball every Thursday. So I did that earlier today. I prep a little bit for that. I also met with another young woman who's wanting to break into this space and, offering her advice. She wanted me to look at her reel. So do that sometimes. And then tomorrow, yeah, my husband's off on Friday. So I don't typically like to have any meetings on Fridays. I'm getting a tattoo tomorrow, and I'll be able to write all weekend and watch basketball. So that's pretty much my week.
That's the week, busy week. And as we said, no, and I'm sure as we were talking before we started recording, how busy, you stay. And then that's a good thing. That's how you wanted it too. And like I said, you
Yeah.
said it, like I said, when I was researching, you said that in the interview, it was like, hey, I bet on myself and this is what I love to do, and staying busy and busy is a good thing. I know people take it as busy. Oh, I'm so busy. I'm so busy. But if you love what you do, it's not work, it's work, but it's fun.
For sure.
And you said, yeah, meetings, and I was glad to catch you at a good time, because even when we were setting this up, you said yes, and I knew, because the way you say, the way that college basketball heading into March Madness, the busiest time, and
Yeah.
hopefully a WNBA season. We got to get into all that too. We're gonna talk about that as well, because I want to get your perspective on what's going on with the WNBA, negotiations and things like the CBA negotiations. And so we'll get into that. But talk about the book. I can't wait to get it. I'm definitely getting a copy for sure. Court Queens is a women's basketball. It's a love letter to women's basketball from the 1800s to the present. This tells the stories of the greatest players, teams, and moments throughout women's hoops history. Get it, get it, because it launches. It'll be released right before March Madness, March
Hmm.
17th. So coming to your coffee table near you. It's co-author with Emma. Did I say her right name right? Lorelli.
Bachelary. Yeah.
Bachelari.
Emma
Yes, I knew
Bachelary.
that.
Yeah.
Emma Bachelari. I knew this. Emma Bachelari. Yes, but yes, it is co-author with Emma Bachelari. Talk about the book. I know it's exciting. You're getting, interviews. I've been seeing some interviews and things like that. But talk about why'd you write this book, and everything, and just talk a little bit about it.
It is my life's work. It has been
Mhm.
so much fun to be able to create such a vast history book on, women's basketball. And when a lot of people hear history, they're like, okay, but this is fun. It's a lot of great photos from, like you said, the 1890s of when women's basketball was really
Yeah.
brought to the forefront right after the men's basketball, by the way. Like, this is right when the sport was getting started. Women's basketball was really there from the beginning, and you see women in long dresses and high heels and still with the basketball in their hand all the way through, the 70s and Title IX, and the 80s, with Cheryl Miller, and then the 90s of the WNBA getting started alongside the ABL, all the way to the boom of women's basketball that we're experiencing right now. So why we wrote this book was really to show that women's hoops didn't really start a couple years ago, even though maybe people discovered it for the first time recently. It has been so many women that have laid the groundwork to get where we are today. So many leagues that have laid the groundwork for the WNBA to be soaring. So many college athletes that maybe don't get their name in a book too often. That
Yeah.
was really our motivation on writing this. And it's separated by different decades and eras, with fun facts and stats and incredible photos that it's for every women's basketball fan. Everyone would love it, all ages.
Everyone get that book, March 17th. As you said, March Madness. Get the book, and then it's the history. So it's the history of women's basketball, which is important being told and everything too. Talk about the research of it as well. How long did it take? Like what can you kind of laid it out what to expect, but talk about the research aspect of it. I'm always interested and intrigued when a new book comes out, how that research process went.
Yeah, so I used to be a fact checker for theringer.com,
Mm,
and that research aspect is has always been a part of me. I've always been so I love falling down a rabbit hole and just reading all these random twists and turns of lore. That was a part of women's basketball. So to be able to do that for this, it was so much fun. Like you said, it was work, but not really. We had a very fast turnaround for this. I wish we could have said that we spent years writing this book,
yeah.
but we wrote it in about 4 months, 4 to 5 months.
Wow.
And we made our deadline. The publishers were like, "Wow, we didn't think you'd make that." We're like, "We're two journalists. We are very serious about our deadline."
Yep.
So we worked all around the clock, around the holidays, to get this out. And this was the first book for both Emma and I. But once we really got down to, here are the names that have to be in this book, here are the moments that have to be in it, and kind of outlining it from there. But my favorite part was the stuff that we didn't know, that even as we are the biggest fans of women's hoops, there was still so much that we didn't know.
Yeah.
And if you started looking over here and then we see this one name and we're like, wait, everyone has to know about this. So then there's another essay on that.
Mm,
And maybe one essay was only going to be a couple pages long, but then once we really got into it, then that turned into a 5-page essay. Just things like that that were really unexpected. And I think we left room for that. We didn't come to it saying that we knew everything. We
right.
came very curious and asked questions along the way, and also asked, if this is a super fan reading this or if this is a brand new women's basketball fan, we don't want it to feel too over the head, too like, oh, I have to have another book to entry into this book. We wanted it to feel like if you just started watching women's basketball yesterday, after you read this book, you will feel like the coolest person at the water cooler because you have so much facts up your sleeve, so many names. You'll impress so many people by
Yeah.
dropping gems from this book. So that's where the research really took us. And that was so much fun to dive into.
I'm sure it's very rewarding once people start reading, getting the book and reading it. Because that was going to be my next question, but you kind of answered it. Like, what's one thing you want people to get out of it? But as you said, as fans of women's hoops, to get out of it. They want to, you said they want to be able to say if they're new fans, which we know there's a lot of a lot of new fans that just got on as women's basketball fans, to be able to read something like this and go back and say, hey, all the women that laid that groundwork first and foremost, to
Yeah.
what it is today, and the trajectory of what women's basketball has become, what it is today. I think it's very, very exciting. I'm excited to get it. I'm always looking for new books, and I saw this when you guys were releasing it, and I'm like, yep. This is one. This is gonna be one of those ones. It's gonna be one of those ones
Great.
I'm gonna get. I'm a
We
I'm
love
a
it.
Barnes and Noble's fan, so I go and I'm a member. So so I'll definitely, this is going to be one of the ones on March 17th. So everyone get the book. Book tour. Is that in the works? Is it going to be some things you're going to be going? And my question is, are you coming to Philly? That's the question too.
I wish. I wish I was coming to Philly. What we're kind of doing is because Emma is based on the East Coast and I'm
Yeah.
out here on the West Coast, so we've kind of split it up that way. She has some incredible events lined up at a couple women's sports bars in New York.
Mm,
She will be, doing some trivia out there on March 17th at Wilca's, which is so cool. She's also from, the Triangle. She went to Duke, so she has some cool events in North Carolina. That all around. This is all around the release date of March 17th. And then I'm from Sacramento. I grew up a Monarchs fan, so I'm super
mm,
excited to have a book event in Sacramento on March 20th at the Guild Theater. All of this can be on our book's Instagram, Court Queen's Book, and on Eventbrite. But we're super excited. We are going to both be at the Final Four. We're trying to put an event together there whenever we're both in the same place,
yeah,
like the Final Four
that's
and
tough,
All
right?
Star. So yeah, I think it's just going to keep going. As the conversation of women's basketball continues to grow, this is just the beginning. And we want pre-orders to be out there so that publishers and people realize that there is a demand for,
Mm.
people are hungry for women's basketball content. So that's kind of the push for pre-orders, but this is going to be going on far beyond March 17th.
Absolutely, yes. I can't wait. Again, Court Queens. Everyone, make sure you get it as well. Emma Bachelor Early and Jordan Robinson's new book will be released on March 17th. Get a copy, buy a couple copies and everything
Yeah.
too. And check out their page as well with book tours and things like that. So looking forward to it. Like I said, if you guys ever make it to Philadelphia, I would definitely be there supporting and all that. But you got to support it in me with the book as well. So anything you
Thank
need
you.
with that, you for sure as well. But I got to get into a little bit of the podcast as well. The Women's Hoop Show. You always have Cheryl Swoops, the Hall of Famer, one of the greatest of all time, women's basketball player. Done so much for the game and everything too. Talk about the Women's Hoop Show. You have great guest hosts and all that, but talk about what that entails. And by the way, great show, great podcast as well. But yes, talk about the Women's Hoop Show.
Yeah, it's my weekly women's basketball show. It used to be called Queens of the Court,
Mm-hmm.
where it was just me and Cheryl. It was the official podcast for the WNBA. But then, this past year, we decided to kind of branch out and make it all women's basketball so that we could talk about college, unrivaled, Athletes Unlimited, Project B. Like, there's just so many things to talk about
Yeah,
and not just the WNBA. So that's what kind of led us to branch out. But it's a blast. I mean, it is such a pinch me moment to be able to talk about basketball with one of the greatest of all time, in Cheryl Swoops. I love her insight. We have so much fun, maybe too much fun. We are just laughing all the time. It's always great to, bring my experience or my questions, and then to be able to ask a great who's done all of it. When we
yeah,
talk about All Star, when we talk about, I feel like All Star is such a great example. We're talking about All Star voting. This was, I think, last year, And I was like, Cheryl, like, what is that difference between being an all-star starter and a reserve? Because, years down the line, you're just going to have it next to your name that you're an all-star. And she's like, I've never been a reserve, so I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh yeah, you're the
Right.
goat. Like, of
Yeah, yes,
course,
yes.
you can't relate to these little problems of other people. So it's like moments like that I'm just like, oh, she's my friend. No, she's
Yeah.
my friend who is such a great women's basketball player. So it's been a blast, and I think it was so important for us to start the show, because there really wasn't a lot of podcasting specifically for women's basketball.
Yeah.
And we started it in about 2023. And there's so many conversations that go on, especially when it was Twitter and when the women's basketball community is so strong on there. How do we kind of take those conversations beyond social media
Mm.
after the game, having a place to go to turn on and listen to people really break down the X's and O's or the themes, or just really know ball? And that's something that we wanted to bring to the women's basketball community, that the NBA has a trillion podcasts and the
Yes, they
NFL
do.
has a trillion and one podcasts. And so why can't the WNBA and women's basketball also have that? So that was our goal with the show. And it's been amazing to do it for as long as I have. And I hope we can keep going.
I hope so too, because it's needed. And we talked about earlier the storytelling, and I love the perspective that you and Cheryl Swoops have. And it's interesting. She just point blank said, "I was never a reserve." That's actually funny. But that's Cheryl Swoops though. That's just who she is. She just says but it's true. Like she said, I've never been a reserve with a question like that. So it's interesting. But I love because you guys the personality. Of the show. I love you said you guys have a good time. I love those types of podcasts because you guys are bringing information, but also having a good time as
Mm-hmm.
well. And it's well researched. I mean, incredible show that's needed. And I saw that you had Megan Hall on yesterday or the Tuesday
Yes.
as well. One of my homies in this space. I love Megan Hall. Had her on the show a couple of times, and you had Autumn Johnson on as well.
Yes.
She you talk about basketball, knows her basketball and everything too is in this space. You always have that, and I'm always looking to say, okay, who's going to be on the show? Who else is going to be on the show? Who's next?
Yeah,
And
we got
everything.
hoopers. We
Yeah,
have people that really
yeah,
love the game, and that's
hmm
that's probably the only prerequisite before coming on the show. Is
yeah,
I'm like, you gotta love it. And from all of our rotating co-hosts,
yes,
Kendra
yes.
Andrews from
Kendra
ESPN is
Andrews, yep.
also
hmm
on all the time, and I love chatting with her through her profile pieces and her reported pieces, because she just brings such research and she's so smart. So I just have a bunch of friends and we all talk about basketball, and there happens to be a microphone in front of us. That's definitely how I describe it.
It's incredible. I'm sure, like you said, it's like a pinch me moment. Like I said, I've had all these incredible women or incredible people just in general just coming on. So you've had a lot on the show and interviewed. Yeah, Monica McNutt. I mean, you've had quite a bit of people. Is there anybody that you haven't had? If you had a two or three that you would love to come on the show to chop it up with you, who would it be?
Oh gosh.
Put
I
you on the
want
spot.
I want everyone.
Yes,
Like
yes.
I really do. I think especially with court queens and the history of the league, I have this
Mm,
strong desire of just getting a lot of OGs and
right.
people who have been, a part of the league when it wasn't as popular. And I just want to know, what that was like in their experience, and how would they describe their game if people haven't, seen it before. So I always think about that. People who don't typically get asked to be on podcasts or share their
Mm,
story, I would love to provide that, because it could, now there are a ton of WNBA podcasts by
yeah,
players, by so many other people. And so how can I kind of separate myself? That's what I said that before.
right.
Having a space for the OGs to come and brag on themselves, because they definitely, love to. I had, Ann Myers Drysdale, who's also in the book, and she does a really great Q&A. And I gave her a space to brag, and she's like, "Yeah, I was the best." Like, and
Yeah,
I
yeah.
want that. I
Why
want that
not?
bravado from all of these women because they deserve it. They are so great. So yeah, those are just some examples. But outside of that, I mean, President Barack Obama come on the Women's Hoop Show to chat.
Yeah.
We had Craig Robinson on in the early
Mm,
days, and he talked about
yeah.
the pickup games that him and Barack Obama had, Maya Moore, Diana, and credit all these NBA players. And I'm like, wait, what? This is a
Yeah.
whole separate story time that we could get
Right.
into. But yeah, more people about their fandom too. I think that would also be
Oh, it's such a dope podcast. That's all I can say. I love it. I do. And I listen in and I see, like I said, okay, who they got on next? What's the next one and everything too. It's incredible. You said the storytelling, the preparation, the research. It's an incredible podcast. I really you have
Thank
a big
you.
again another fan. I'm just yeah, I love those type of podcasts anyway, and I've been listening for a while, so and really enjoy that. So yeah, everyone check that out. Like, subscribe, share, all those things with the podcast as well. All right, just got a few more. I mean, I could talk to you forever. I know I could, but I know you got time. Got for time sake. But got to talk about the WNBA and the negotiations and everything too, where it is. I know there's a supposed hard cap for March 10th. My question to you would be that you're entrenched in it and everything too. Just one simple question: do you think we have a season, or will it start on time? How optimistic are you that you think it will start on time?
I think I am more optimistic than most.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm with you.
I Yeah, I think it's I want it to. So I think there's
Yeah,
a part of me that's just like, I want it to happen so badly that it will happen, just trying to speak it into existence a
yeah,
little bit.
right.
But there are a lot of things that have to happen before we
Yeah,
get to a season. Then that's where that March 10th deadline comes in because the league is now looking at the calendar and saying, okay, we have two expansion drafts we need to get to. We have
yep,
a college draft that we need to do
yep,
and a free agency that has to happen all before training camp starts in the end of April for a May 8th opening season. Like that is a lot, but
yes,
also after a deal is supposedly, given a green light, there's still things that have to be done to make sure the deal is valid before you can even start having those free agency talks, before people start signing contracts. Like there is so much that has to get done. And for the league to have, drag their feet a little bit
mm,
before getting their counter proposal back to the players, that's ate up a lot of time. And it's been 16 months total that negotiations have kind of been going on since
right.
they opted out of the CBA. So this is something that has been going on for 16 months, and they're like, okay, wrap it up in a couple weeks, please. I don't know. So that's where the little bit of pessimism is there of it has to not only come together, but it has to come together fairly quickly. And who's going to blink first, right? Is the league going to be able to say, okay, you're right, you deserve this money, players. We're going to hand you what you said that you feel like you deserve. Or the player is going to say, okay, well, we want a season, so maybe we have to settle for something that isn't there. I don't think the players are going to settle. They have been settling for many CBAs, especially the last one in
Yeah,
around 2020 that they signed. It wasn't time yet for them to ask for the big bucks, but now it is. And this recent news of the WNBA turning a revenue for the kickback of rev share for the players in
yes,
2025, that's proof that the players are like, yeah, you made so much money that we're
yep,
getting a rev share kickback, which we've never gotten before. So
yes.
there's things like that where I can see the players holding firm. And that's where I get nervous because I do think we will have a season, but if it gets pushed back for the players to get paid and what they deserve, then I'm okay with that.
Yes, I'm with you. Agree 100%. I think when that they cracked it when they said, and you guys did the show, yeah, the other day, WNBA doesn't make money. Narrative cracked. New leverage in the CBA fight. Yeah, that it's always been okay since the league is saying, well, we're going to lose money in the long run. and we can't, with this whole, well, you've made money. The revenue share has been there. Crack open those books. That's what we've been saying,
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
players have been saying that. Well, you guys are saying that. Well, we're losing money on the back end. Let's see it then. The players should have a right to see that. Then let's see the business. Let's see that, as they say, the book of business. Let's see it. You guys are talking it, but you're not saying it. You
Yeah.
pay these players. Play these players. They built this. These last few years have proven that the league is strong. The league needs to continue this momentum, because if there is a lockout, I'm very worried that they will lose some of that momentum, at least, unless if there's not a season, definitely. But if there is a season, I'm thinking at this point, I think that they will start late, because there's so much got to happen. As you said, the
Hmm.
expansion draft with two teams. You got the draft in itself, and then free agency, where it's what 98% of the league is free agents, 97% of the league is something like that. High percentage is
Yeah.
free agent. It's going to be a mad dash from that. So you got to get all that in on top of that, and then training camps, and then the league. I think they're going to start in June. I think there's going to be a little bit of a setback on
Mhm.
that, but I don't want that. I'm not wishing that at all. But it just, as you've seen that, basketball, being a fan, all that with the NBA, when they had a lockout, it took
Mhm.
a little bit. I just don't want the fans to turn their backs, and then they start blaming the players that, oh, see, they're being greedy and this and that. I don't want to see
Mm.
that for the W. I really, really don't. Um,
Yeah, and one thing I want to add too, just because history tends to repeat itself,
mm,
and this similar thing happened in 2003. So with the 2003
yes.
collective bargaining agreement, it went up to the deadline, and David Stern came in and said, "Okay, if you don't make a deal by this date, then we're basically shutting down the WNBA." He made
Right.
a very
Yes.
black or white type of thing. So they were able to come in the 11th hour,
Yeah.
at 3 a.m. and come to an agreement. And they were scrambling to put together a draft, and all these things happened because they wanted them to happen. So,
Yes.
even though it won't look like a typical offseason free agency, I could see players just signing 1 year deals just to be able to get something on paper and be able
Right.
to revisit it when things are a little calmer. But if they want to get it done, they'll get it done. And
Yeah.
even
That's the
though we're us as the media who will be covering maybe at Final Four, having to step out, do a video about free agency, and then also
yeah.
writing a story about
Right.
expansion
Right.
draft, like all on the same day, if that has to happen so that we start on time, then it will. And I think the players and the league will do anything if it comes down to that. But first, you have to have an agreement. So that's the key part that could hold it up. But if it gets close to the wire, I think they'll scramble. I think they'll do it.
I think they'll do
Yeah.
it too. I think they will make a deal, and it could be at that last hour. We could get we could get text and messages at least at 3 a.m. when we're asleep. It's almost
Oh
like the
my
Luka
gosh.
Doncic and when it's like
Oh
4
man,
a.m.
yeah. It's going to be that times 10
Yes.
because it's going to
Hmm.
be every free agent.
Yep.
Hopefully they just stay with their same teams. That's what
I
I'm
hope
also
so.
hoping.
Let's
Everybody
hope
just wants more
so.
money. Stay with your team. Don't do
Yes.
anything crazy because we
Right.
can't take it.
Yes, yes. Let's just do. We can't handle this every day. Is going to be
I
someone
know.
new going to a different
I'm
team, and
prepping my mind, my body, my
yes,
husband. I'm like,
hmm
my screen time is going to be through the roof. I'm just
through the
warning
roof.
everybody.
It's going to be through the roof, and then we're going to be getting these alerts and everything too. Yeah, it's going to be a mad dash. But I agree. I think, and I know Adam Silver. He has said some statements, and if he needs to step in, and I don't know how much pull he's going to have with this and everything too. But it's just got to be WNBA leadership, which is very questionable, to say the
Mhm.
least. I'll
Mhm.
say it. I'll leave it at that. And then you got the players who just deserve to be paid, and want that revenue share, and want that piece. And on top of that, you got the new TV deal kicks in this upcoming season. So there's money to
Mhm.
be had. There's money to be for these players to be paid. Like as you said, the groundwork has been laid out. Now it's time for the players to get what they deserve. So I hope they be able to start on time, but I could see a June ish start. But then we can start in May. But you're right, it could be a mad dash, and next thing you know, you're going to get alerts and everything. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting March and April to say the least, on top of March Madness, on top of the national championship, and on top of, free agency, on top of the draft. Yeah,
Oh,
it's gonna
please.
be
I feel like
crazy.
I can feel the gray hairs growing from my scalp. But that
I
is gonna be some long days.
Yes, I can't take no more. I got
But
gray in my
so
beard and
fun.
head, and I got gray in my head and beard. So yes, I can see more gray coming up. So but it's an exciting time. So hopefully I'll get a deal done. Last one I want to ask you about Unrivaled before I let you go. Playoffs on Unrivaled starting Saturday, I believe. Yes, Saturday,
Hmm.
because the last
Hmm.
game is tomorrow, last regular season, and then the playoffs is Saturday. What's your take on your thoughts on season 2 of Unrivaled? It's been exciting, and the 1v1 tournament was great.
That was awesome.
I watched that over All-Star weekend. I didn't even watch NBA All-Star weekend, not the
Yeah.
Saturday. I watched the one-on-one, which was
Uh,
exciting. But what's been your overall thoughts on season 2?
exciting is a part of it. I mean, there were so many conversations around, you talk about momentum, the year one, you have just a group and an audience that's so ready because it's new, right?
Yeah.
It's the new shiny thing. It's the new league. It's brought up by
Yep.
players. Let's see if it's going to work. Even some, hate watching, like, oh, I don't want
Yeah.
this to succeed, but let me just check it out. Like that all happens in year one.
Yep.
So year two, a lot of the narrative starting with viewership being down and all of these
Mhm.
things, but I don't buy it. You saw in Philly. I don't know if you got to go,
I
but
was there. Yep. Yep.
they
I was
came to
there.
your town. $2
Yep.
million in revenue in one day
Yes.
is insane, and they're about to do the same thing in Brooklyn in
Yep.
just a couple days for the
Yep. On
playoffs.
Monday. Yes.
What a flex to just announce that a couple weeks before,
Yeah.
knowing that you're going to sell it out, having that confidence. So it has set the precedent for what a new league should look like. They have a real product. The players are the best in the business. They have proven that night in and night out. The games have been so exciting because it's just so much talent on the floor. And it's
Yes.
like it just reminds me of like a video game. Like, yes, I would love to see Don Malonga play with Paige Beckers. We know that can't happen in the WNBA, maybe for a couple years because they're on
Right.
rookie contracts. But I love that we get to see it in a 3-on-3 format. I love that she gets to dunk it so freely, and you get to just see all these players bag that they have on, what offensive weapons that they are and defensive weapons, because 3-on-3 really puts you on an island. I used to work for FIBA 3x3, and
Yes.
I would
Mhm.
do play by play for them, and calling the games, just how fast paced 3-on-3 is. And so it's always so fun to see, a Jackie Young or a Kelsey Plum who was very familiar with that FIBA format come into this and dominate. But then there's new players like a Kelsey Mitchell who it took her a couple games to figure it out. But once she did and realized how she can use her speed to that
Yep.
advantage, then it's off to the races. So these are the best basketball players in the world, and I love what Nafisa Collier and Brianna Stewart have done to not only pay them the right way, give them all the facilities, show them what it's like to be a pro in the United States, in Miami. It's been so fun. And with the playoffs, it's single elimination. Last year, Vinyl snuck in on that sixth spot and made it to the finals. And now the Vinyl snuck in again at that
And
sixth
again.
spot.
Yep.
So
Hmm.
anything can happen in the playoffs. And if this is your first year watching Unrivaled, it's not always the number one seed goes all the way. Like that's
Yeah.
just not the story, because you can have a bad night and
Yep.
you're gone.
That's it.
Uh,
Yeah.
so yeah, that's what makes it exciting. And I like that they're switching it up from Miami to Brooklyn to back to Miami. So I will be watching,
I,
definitely.
I will be watching too. And yes, I was in Philly doing some media stuff with Unrivaled, was part of that, and got to do some interviews and got to see some of the players and things like that. It was so much. Oh my goodness, it was so electric. Philadelphia, they really showed out. They really did. It was you said, a record breaking fans, over 21,000 and plus.
Mm,
It was everything I could have asked for, and I'm so
wow.
glad that Philadelphia. It just shows how much Philly needs a team here, which they will be getting in 2030. But it
Hmm.
just showed out how much the fans really enjoyed women's basketball and the rich history of women's basketball here and everything too. with Natasha Cloud and Kalia Copper being back home, and they really showed out. And I'm sure Brooklyn's going to do the same thing for sure. But it just showed how much from season 1 to season 2 what it was, what it can be, and what it is. And as you said, they said, hey, watching like, oh, this is not going to work. It's not going to work. And look what it's doing and everything too. So I love being part of the media and doing some interviews on Zoom and everything too. And then the product is great. As you said, the players they bought in, and they're competitive. It's competition. And it's just like anything else in basketball. It's competition and money's involved too. On top of that, it's
Oh
like,
yeah. Yeah.
that's really
Chelsea
gonna make
Gray
it better.
making her full salary in
Yes,
31 minutes of basketball total from the one-on-ones is
yes,
a real life statistic. And
mm-hmm.
so
Yes.
extra money always puts some extra gas in your tank. That's for
Yes, it
sure.
does for sure, and it's guaranteed money, and they love it from season some year 1 to year 2. I think it's improved, and they talked about the professionalism of it and the facilities, and I mean they're throwing shots at the W for saying, hey, this is how the players should be treated, and Unrivaled is doing it, and they're doing it very well. So I guess
Yeah.
W need to take note on some of these things because Unrivaled is, yes, they got a great product there, and I hope it continues, and I know it will. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the playoffs do, and then season 3. So because Fee and Stewie, they're not going anywhere, so and I'm sure other players are going to be more involved in it and everything
Mhm.
too. So yeah, I love season 2. So Jordan, I could have talked to you for hours on this and everything too. I'm truly, this has been a pleasure. It's been an incredible episode. I really, really appreciate it. Love what you're doing. Many blessings to you and upcoming whatever all the projects you got coming up as well. You
Yeah.
laid it out what you had just in this week alone, but I know
Yeah.
I can't wait to see the
Woo.
content as well. But let everyone know where they can follow you, reach out to you, and all those things. Subscribe to your podcast and all that. Let everyone know where they can follow you.
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram at Jordan Liggins, on TikTok at Hey Jordan Robinson, and on Threads as well, and Blue Sky and X, and I'm on all the social medias. You can
Yeah.
find me. You can also subscribe to the Women's Hoop Show. It's on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And make sure to buy Court Queens. You can get it on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, or request it from your local bookstore. It's available for pre-order now and out everywhere March 17th.
Buy the book, subscribe, all those, follow, all those things, which I'm already doing. So yeah, thank you, Jordan, once again. I really appreciate the time, and I'm glad I caught you on at the right time and
Yes.
everything too. Because I don't know if I'm gonna be able to catch you in the next few months, but I hope we can do this again. Hopefully, when the W does start, whenever it starts, I would love to have you back on and maybe do a little preview as well. If we could find some time for that, I would really appreciate that. But I appreciate this time for sure, really do. And
Great.
thank you again, and then enjoy the weekend as well.
Thank you. I
Uh,
appreciate it.
all right, you have a good one.
Thanks.